Evelyn kept the helicopter steady, hovering over the clearing, the rotors whining violently against the wind, each vibration a signal of stress. The metal groaning under the strain below, the SEALs moved quickly, sliding down ropes and into position. On the ground, their boots hitting the soil, silently coordinated like a single organism. Evelyn banked slightly to shield them from the line of sight of enemy combatants, hidden in the tree line, her hands moving instinctively every micro-adjustment, critical to keeping them safe. The enemy opened fire suddenly from the ridge across the clearing, bullets ricocheting off rocks and trees, the SEALs dropping into cover, instantly returning fire with precision. Evelyn twisted the collective banking, sharply adjusting pitch and yaw, the helicopter tilting dangerously but responding to her skill with absolute precision. The wind gusted unpredictably, the rotors screaming against turbulence, the metal flexing beneath her fingers, but she ignored. Fear and fatigue calculating every movement, every second, keeping the aircraft stable and above the chaos. A flash of movement in the tree line alerted her to a hidden enemy sniper adjusting the helicopter to mask their approach, the SEALs firing. Suppressed shots as she banked and dipped, threading between trees and rocks. Her mind calculated trajectory, speed, altitude, and enemy position simultaneously, her pulse syncing with every vibration of the helicopter, each second stretching unbearably. As the SEALs advanced toward the objective with deadly precision, the clearing became a whirlwind of movement, smoke, and sound, bullets and tracer rounds slicing through air. Evelyn countered wind and fire with skill born of instinct and training. One of the SEALs signaled the enemy had reinforced a flank. Evelyn twisted the cyclic banking sharply, adjusting thrust and tail rotor, the metal groaning under stress. Every warning light flashing, but she pressed on instinct, guiding every movement. The SEALs advanced, crouched and silent, their weapons trained on enemy positions, moving like shadows in perfect coordination with her maneuvers. Every second mattered, every microsecond a calculation of lift speed and timing the helicopter alive beneath, her hands responding as if it understood the urgency and the impossible precision required. Suddenly, a grenade exploded near the clearing, shaking the helicopter violently. Evelyn banked and adjusted, collective her fingers, flying over controls, the SEALs holding tight ropes, swinging as she corrected instantly, the rotors screaming against stress, metal flexing beneath her hands, the wind slicing through the cockpit, and every microsecond a test of nerves and skill. The enemy continued to fire, from multiple angles, forcing rapid adjustments, each movement critical to survival and mission success. Evelyn's mind and body working in perfect sync with the helicopter, the impossible unfolding with every breath. The SEALs reached the first objective, silently moving to neutralize enemy positions. Evelyn hovered patiently, calculating hover distance, wind turbulence, and line of sight every second. Critical, the rotors whining violently as if warning her of limits. The helicopter flexed under strain. But she pressed on micro-adjustments, threading between trees and rocks, the SEALs coordinating silently with her every movement, advancing with lethal precision, the enemy unaware of how close to disaster they teetered. A second wave of enemy fire erupted from the ridge. Evelyn twisted the collective banking sharply, adjusting cyclic and tail rotor, the helicopter groaning under stress, the metal bending slightly under force every microsecond, a calculation of survival, skill, and instinct. The SEALs braced themselves, moving fluidly across the clearing, their weapons trained covering each other. Evelyn dipped lower, adjusting lift and pitch, the helicopter responding instantly, her hands moving like an extension of her mind, every micro-adjustment, keeping them alive. The objective now within reach, the enemy concentrating fire on their advance. Evelyn leaned forward, scanning the terrain, adjusting altitude and approach timing every second, counting the distance between soldiers and enemy positions. The helicopter groaned, the rotors screaming under stress, metal flexing, every warning light flashing. Yet she held steady, trusting skill, instinct, and years of training to guide them safely. The SEALs moved forward with perfect synchronization, every Microsecond matched to her maneuvers, advancing silently under deadly threat. Suddenly, a hail of bullets struck the rotor wash, sending debris flying. Evelyn twisted the cyclic banking, sharply countering the force-adjusting tail rotor and throttle. The metal creaking alarmingly, the seals gripping tightly, ropes swaying but maintaining balance. Her instincts guiding every micro-adjustment. The helicopter alive beneath her hands, every vibration a warning and a guide for the impossible extraction, unfolding with lethal precision. The enemy closing in fast every second, a test of courage, skill, and absolute trust in her abilities. And as the seals reached cover, Evelyn hovered above, calculating timing and distance, adjusting each movement carefully. The rotors screaming against wind stress and enemy fire, every vibration a reminder of the fragile line between success and disaster. Her pulse matched the rhythm of the helicopter, every nerve alive, knowing that one mistake could undo everything. And yet she pressed forward, guiding them inch by inch toward safety. The impossible extraction stretching into eternity, with every second a testament to skill, courage, and instinct. Evelyn held the helicopter steady above the clearing, every vibration. A warning, every flex of the metal, a reminder of the impossible tension beneath her hands. The seals moved with precision, sliding ropes and advancing toward the objective, their boots hitting the soil lightly, their weapons trained on enemy positions. Every second, a dance of skill and coordination. Evelyn adjusted throttle collective and pedals micro-adjustments, keeping the aircraft perfectly balanced above chaos and fire. The wind howling past the canopy, the rotors screaming against stress, as if testing the limits of what she could endure. Enemy fire continued sporadically, bullets pinging off rocks and trees, but Evelyn twisted the cyclic banking sharply, using the shadows of cliffs and the slope of terrain to mask their approach. The seals moved in perfect synchronization, crouching low, advancing silently and efficiently, knowing that every microsecond counted. Every motion coordinated with Evelyn's maneuvers, the impossible extraction now on the edge of success or disaster. The helicopter flexing violently under stress, every warning light flashing metal, groaning as if alive. But she pressed on instinct and experience, guiding them safely forward. A sudden flash from the ridge revealed a hidden sniper. Evelyn banked sharply, dipping the nose, adjusting lift and tail rotor, micro-adjustments instantaneously countering the threat. The seals fired suppressed rounds while she maneuvered the helicopter, threading between trees and rocks, every second calculated with lethal precision. The valley around them alive with danger, every pulse a reminder of risk, every vibration a guide to survival. Her heart raced, her mind focused entirely on timing, distance, and trajectory, each movement critical to completing the mission successfully. The extraction point was finally in sight, a narrow clearing beyond enemy positions. Evelyn adjusted approach altitude and hover, calculating every movement, the rotors whining violently, the metal creaking under stress, yet responding perfectly to her instinctive commands. The seals readied themselves, ropes swinging, ready to descend or advance with lethal efficiency. Every microsecond mattered, every calculation critical. The helicopter alive beneath her fingers, responding like an extension of her own body, and the impossible moment unfolding in real time beneath wind, fire, and enemy lines. Suddenly, a grenade exploded near the ridge, sending a shockwave through the clearing. Evelyn twisted the collective banking, sharply adjusting, cyclic and tail rotor, every movement instinctively countering the blast. The seals braced, holding tight ropes swinging as the helicopter rocked violently, metal groaning under the stress debris, flying the rotors screaming in protest. But she pressed, on every micro-adjustment, keeping them balanced and safe. The enemy fire intensified, bullets slicing dangerously close, yet Evelyn's skill guided them inch by inch toward the clearing, the impossible extraction slowly becoming real. She dipped lower, Hovering over the clearing using rocks and shadows as cover, the SEALs descending swiftly into position, their boots finding purchase silently advancing toward objectives. Evelyn calculated lift-thrust angle and wind speed simultaneously, her pulse matching every vibration of the helicopter. Every second, a test of trust, courage, and absolute precision. The enemy continued to fire from multiple angles, but she countered instinctively every maneuver, keeping the aircraft steady and above chaos. One of the SEALs signaled the final objective: clear. Evelyn twisted the cyclic banking, sharply adjusting pitch and yaw, the rotors screaming, the fuselage flexing under stress, every warning light flashing. But she pressed on, trusting instinct and experience over caution. The SEALs moved forward, their movements fluid and precise, advancing on enemy positions, neutralizing threats systematically, as Evelyn kept the helicopter perfectly balanced above the storm of fire debris and wind. The last enemy position neutralized. Evelyn hovered briefly, scanning the clearing, ensuring all SEALs were safe, every vibration and flex of the metal a reminder of how close disaster had been. The rotors whining violently, wind howling around her, the helicopter responding perfectly to her commands. The SEALs secured the zone, signaling success, their eyes meeting hers, a silent acknowledgement of trust and survival, the impossible mission completed. But Evelyn leaned forward, her fingers gripping the controls as the extraction zone came into view, the helicopter slicing through air like a blade, every vibration a warning and a signal that the mission was entering its most dangerous phase. The SEALs, behind her, tensed, their eyes scanning the terrain, weapons ready. Every second, a delicate balance of trust, instinct, and timing. The enemy had realized their approach, and fire from the ridge ahead erupted suddenly, bullets and tracer rounds arcing, dangerously close. The helicopter rocking violently from the gusts and near misses, yet Evelyn adjusted instinctively, banking and twisting, using the rotor wash to shield their position. The ground below became a chaotic blur, trees and rocks shifting. With speed as she dipped and twisted, the valley walls pressing close, every adjustment a calculation of lift, drag, speed, and trajectory. Her mind a machine absorbing data and converting it instantly into micro-movements. The SEALs communicated silently, checking positions and giving rapid updates through hand signals and subtle movements, trusting her skill and experience to guide them safely through the storm of fire and terrain. The helicopter groaned under stress, the metal whining, but she pressed forward, knowing hesitation would mean disaster. Suddenly, a flash of light from above alerted her to an enemy drone trying to track their movement. Evelyn rolled the helicopter sharply, twisting the collective and adjusting pitch to break line of sight. The SEALs responding immediately, crouching lower in the cabin, scanning the hills for additional threats. The wind howled around the rotors, turbulence throwing the aircraft, but she countered every movement, her mind and body in perfect sync. With the machine, the impossible flight balancing survival and precision over fear and instinct. The extraction point now visible just beyond a narrow pass. Evelyn adjusted approach, calculating angles, speed, and lift with surgical precision, the helicopter responding instantly. The SEALs readied ropes and equipment every second, a calculation of timing, trust, and coordination. Evelyn felt every vibration, pulse, and whine of the rotors as a signal of how close to the limit they were. The valley closing. Around them, enemy positions visible on either side. The impossible navigation becoming real in each micro-adjustment of hands, feet, and instincts. A sudden gust from the pass caught the helicopter violently. She twisted the collective banking sharply, adjusting tail rotor and cyclic, the metal groaning under the strain, every instrument warning failure. Yet she ignored them, trusting skill over alarm. The SEALs froze momentarily, feeling the shift in the aircraft. Their eyes wide, but Evelyn signaled forward. The extraction point clear for now, but the enemy already mobilizing behind them. the seconds counting faster than the heart could measure every maneuver crucial to survival and success. Evelyn felt sweat run down her back, the cockpit tight, her muscles trembling with exertion, every nerve alive with anticipation and calculation. The rotor wash kicked up debris from the cliffside below, and she banked slightly, the helicopter responding immediately, the seals moving in perfect unison. Behind her, relying on instinct and training to coordinate their actions, timing each second to match her movements and keep the mission intact. The valley walls seemed to close with each twist, the enemy fire becoming more accurate as they anticipated. Her path, yet every maneuver she made countered their calculations perfectly. The extraction zone appeared now as a narrow clearing perched on a ridge, the wind turbulent and unpredictable. Evelyn adjusted throttle collective and pedals, calculating. Every micro shift needed to land precisely and quickly enough to deploy the seals without alerting the enemy. The helicopter shuddered under stress, but she held steady, the seals peering over edges prepared to rappel or move forward as she hovered. In perfect balance, every second a measure of courage and skill. The enemy on the ridge opened fire again, forcing micro-adjustments and calculated dips to shield the cabin and maintain position. Evelyn dipped the nose slightly, adjusting lift, the rotors screaming under pressure, the metal groaning and trembling, every vibration, a signal to the limits of stress. Yet she held firm, trusting instinct and experience over alarms. She guided the helicopter closer each meter, measuring timing distance and trajectory. The seals sliding ropes and preparing for deployment, their movements synchronized perfectly with her maneuvers, knowing one misstep would mean disaster below the extraction point, the enemy continuing to advance, closing the distance. With lethal intent, a sudden explosion on the far side of the ridge shook the aircraft. Evelyn twisted the collective banking, sharply adjusting pitch and tail rotor, the seals holding tight, scanning every angle for threats. Her mind calculated wind, turbulence, altitude, trajectory, and enemy line of sight. Simultaneously, every microsecond accounted for as she guided them closer to the extraction point. The impossible precision balancing life and death in a fragile dance of metal, air, and human instinct, and as the helicopter hovered above the ridge, Evelyn felt the pulse of adrenaline surge, every nerve alive, the seals ready to deploy ropes and advance the enemy positions, closing fast every second, a test of skill, courage, and trust her, hands moving instinctively over controls. Every movement critical, every vibration a warning and a guide, the extraction only seconds away, and the impossible still unfolding beneath her fingertips. Evelyn hovered above the ridge, the rotors screaming. Against the wind, each vibration a signal of stress and warning. The metal groaning under the tension below, the seals prepared to descend their ropes, taught the enemy, now fully aware of their approach, opening fire sporadically, bullets pinging, and, ricocheting against the helicopter, she twisted the collective banking, sharply adjusting pitch and yaw, using the slope of the cliffside to shield the cabin from the worst of the assault. Every movement calculated and instantaneous, the seals trusting. Her instinct and skill as much as their own training to keep them alive, a sudden gust slammed into the helicopter. Tilting it violently, Evelyn countered immediately, her hands moving with precision, instincts honed over years of combat flight taking. Over her mind and body, the rotors whining under the strain as she twisted and dipped the aircraft through turbulence and enemy fire. The seals braced themselves, holding tightly, watching her every movement. The extraction ropes swaying with the wind, the cliffside below a chaotic blur as bullets kicked up dust and debris from the ridge. The seconds stretching impossibly long, and each one a test of nerves, courage, and absolute precision. She dipped lower, closer to the extraction zone. The rotors slicing air violently, adjusting every lever pedal, and switched the metal flexing beneath her hands, threatening to fail with every micro-adjustment. But she held firm, knowing hesitation could mean disaster. The seals readied to repel a coordinated, and silent signal moving as one, their eyes scanning the ridge for enemy combatants and hidden threats, every second synchronized with Evelyn's movements as she guided them closer to safety. The wind shifted suddenly, forcing an abrupt bank. Helicopter groaning violently, the SEALs gripping hard as she twisted and corrected instantly, keeping them balanced above the chaos. The enemy fire intensified from a ridge across the clearing. Evelyn adjusted throttle and collective threading the helicopter through a narrow corridor of trees and rocks, each meter calculated and precise, the aircraft vibrating under stress. The SEALs watching her maneuvers, silently trusting skill over panic. Every microsecond mattered, every second a calculation of lift, drag, speed, and trajectory. The extraction zone only meters away, but still a maze of danger, blocking their path, bullets and tracer rounds slicing through the air. The soldiers behind her tense and ready, every heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of the helicopter, and her instinct. A sudden explosion to the left shook the helicopter violently. Evelyn twisted the cyclic banking, sharply adjusting pitch and tail rotor, the fuselage groaning under the force, the rotors screaming as if warning of imminent failure, but she pressed on micro-adjustments, keeping the aircraft steady and moving forward. The SEALs held firm ropes, taut, ready to descend at her command, their eyes scanning every movement and angle, knowing one miscalculation could send them tumbling into enemy fire below. Evelyn's pulse raced, every nerve alive, calculating altitude, wind speed, and enemy positions simultaneously. Her hands flying over controls, instinct guiding every motion. The clearing came into view, the extraction point barely visible beyond debris and enemy fire. Evelyn adjusted approach, carefully lowering altitude, calculating descent, and hover timing the rotors, whining under the pressure, the metal flexing with every movement. The SEALs readied themselves for deployment, ropes dangling ready to carry them into the zone quickly and safely if she guided them properly. Every vibration a warning, every flex a signal. Evelyn felt the helicopter responding to her instinct like an extension of her body, balancing life and death on her skill alone. Suddenly, a hail of fire erupted from the ridge, the bullets hitting dangerously close. Evelyn twisted and banked sharply, dipping the collective adjusting tail rotor, every lever, pedal, and switch, reacting instantly to threats, her muscles burning from exertion, every second counting. The SEALs braced themselves, knowing that their survival depended entirely on her maneuvers. The enemy fire relentless, the extraction still impossible if she faltered. The helicopter leaned dangerously into the wind, the metal creaking under stress, the rotors screaming. Yet she pressed forward, micro-adjustments threading through chaos, like a dancer avoiding EV. Evelyn Price reclined in seat 9C, her private jet humming softly beneath her, the hum of engines, and the gentle vibration lulling her into a rare deep sleep, her mind drifting through thoughts of boardrooms, yachts, and investments she rarely allowed herself to relax in moments like this, the leather seat warm and comfortable, the cabin quiet, save for the faint murmur of the crew moving in the galley and the soft whir of the air circulation system. She had no idea her rest was about to be shattered by a call that would demand skills she had not used in years. A sharp knock at her door jolted her awake, the tablet on her lap sliding to the floor as she blinked against the sudden light. A man in tactical gear stepped forward, face obscured by helmet, his movements precise, controlled. He did not introduce himself, merely stated in a voice, calm but urgent. Evelyn Price. The SEAL team requires a combat pilot immediately. She froze in disbelief, the words sinking slowly, her mind racing through. Possibilities and impossibilities at the same time. The world she knew, her wealth and influence, meant nothing in the face of their command, and the urgency in his tone suggested that refusal was not an option. Evelyn struggled to gather her thoughts, her hand shaking as she rose from the seat. The familiar weight of responsibility she bore in the boardroom replaced by fear and adrenaline. She followed the man down the narrow aisle, the cabin crew frozen in silence watching the billionaire passenger, transformed into someone entirely unrecognizable by her calm demeanor and sudden readiness. The SEALs needed her for a mission she had left behind years ago, and every step she took toward the waiting helicopter made her heart pound faster as the impossible reality became undeniable. The helicopter waited on the tarmac, engines already spinning, the rotors cutting through the morning fog. Evelyn stepped forward and felt the familiar grip of controls under her hands, a memory long buried awakening. Instantly, her muscles remembering what her mind had doubted. The SEAL team approached cautiously, but with respect, a mixture of trust and necessity in their movements. Each soldier carrying the weight of mission and life expectancy, she climbed into the cockpit, the instruments glowing softly under the early light, her fingers brushing over switches and levers that felt alive and responsive beneath her touch. The mission briefing was swift and precise, the details fragmented but terrifying. Hostage extraction deep behind enemy lines. The location remote and heavily guarded. Her aircraft was critical to the success and survival of the SEALs, who trusted her with the impossible. Evelyn absorbed every detail, her mind racing through flight. Paths, enemy placements, timing, and contingency calculations. Every instinct from her past life as a combat pilot returning instantly as if she had never left. The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders heavier than any boardroom decision she had ever made. As the helicopter lifted off the tarmac, the city shrinking behind them, Evelyn felt the familiar surge of adrenaline and focus that only flight could provide. The rotors slicing through air, carrying her forward into the unknown, into danger and uncertainty. The SEALs briefed her in real time, giving updates, tactical and urgent, her fingers moving instinctively across the controls, adjusting altitude, speed, and angle. Every movement precise, calculated, and fast. The helicopter, responding as if it recognized her command. She glanced at the soldiers watching her hands with silent intensity, knowing that their lives and the lives of others depended on her skill and focus. Below them, the terrain stretched wild and uncharted, a labyrinth of mountains, rivers, and forests masking dangers. The SEALs relied on her to navigate and provide cover. She felt the familiar hum of aircraft beneath her control. The wind slicing past the cockpit windows, the instruments alive with pressure and responsiveness. Every second was a test of instinct and training, and Evelyn knew that a single error could cost lives or the mission. She adjusted the flight path carefully, avoiding radar lines and observation posts, feeling the tension coil in her chest as every second drew them closer to danger. Then a faint signal appeared on the radar, an unexpected enemy patrol moving swiftly through the valley, the SEALs preparing to engage and relying entirely on her maneuvers to avoid detection. Evelyn's hands moved with uncanny precision, her eyes calculating angles, speed, altitude, and trajectory. Simultaneously, she tilted the helicopter, adjusting for wind gusts, terrain, elevation, and line of sight, the SEALs watching her every movement, trusting instinct and experience that had lain dormant for years. The distance closed rapidly, the patrol unaware yet closing the gap, and every heartbeat counted in a silent rhythm of survival. And as the helicopter approached the first obstacle, Evelyn felt the weight of the mission press heavier than ever, the SEALs ready for action, the enemy oblivious for now, and she knew that the next move would determine whether the extraction succeeded or failed. Every calculation, every instinct, and every skill she had ever mastered converging in a moment that would leave no room for error. Evelyn adjusted the throttle, and collective instinct guiding her hands, every movement precise and deliberate, her eyes scanning the terrain below the SEALs. Preparing silently in the cabin behind her, each soldier tense yet trusting the pilot, who had returned from a life of boardrooms to life in the cockpit, the helicopter responding to every micro-adjustment like an extension of her own body. The enemy, Patrol closed in faster than anticipated, and she banked sharply, avoiding a ridge, the rotors slicing wind into a roar that filled her ears. Yet she remained focused, unwavering in the face of danger. The valley narrowed ahead, the walls steep and unforgiving. Evelyn calculated angles, trajectories, and lift adjustments simultaneously. Her mind a machine processing threats and opportunities. Every meter mattered. The SEALs communicated in low tones, tactical and urgent, each movement planned to the second, relying on her timing and precision. She tilted the helicopter into a tight turn, the metal groaning under stress, the rotors humming at maximum pitch, every vibration a warning. Yet she pressed forward, trusting instinct and skill over the fear that pulsed in her chest. A sudden flare of light caught her eye, the reflection off enemy optics scanning the valley. The soldiers tensing behind her, ready for action. Evelyn ducked slightly, adjusting altitude and angle banking steeply to avoid the detection. She felt the thrill of control surge through her veins, muscles responding automatically to remembered maneuvers, the helicopter alive beneath her fingers responding instantly. The SEALs moved in synchronized readiness, the extraction point only. Minutes away and the enemy closing every second, a test of calculation, courage, and nerves. Below them, a river cut through the valley, shimmering with early sunlight. Evelyn used it as reference, adjusting altitude to hug the tree line, the helicopter, shifting weight with every change. The right rotor dipping slightly in turbulence, she countered immediately, calculating lift and thrust minute adjustments, keeping the aircraft steady and smooth. The SEALs peered out, observing the terrain, noting markers and threats, their trust absolute in the pilot, who had been called from a life of luxury to fly them through danger. Suddenly, a group of enemy patrols appeared ahead, moving toward the extraction point faster than expected. Evelyn tilted the helicopter sharply, using the slope of the hills for cover, the rotors humming violently as she threaded between trees and rocky outcrops. The SEALs readied their weapons, scanning below and ahead, trusting her instinct and skill to keep them safe. She calculated each second, each movement, measuring distance, speed, and reaction time, knowing that one error could compromise the mission or lives. The radio crackled faintly with reports from the forward reconnaissance team confirming positions and movements. Evelyn absorbed the data, instantly altering flight path, adjusting collective and pedals, the helicopter responding instantly to her commands. The valley narrowed further, the rocks and trees pressing close. She banked and dipped, guiding, the team silently avoiding detection as the enemy advanced, unaware of the precise navigation guiding them through the landscape. The SEALs tensed every second, counting on her to deliver them safely, and Evelyn's pulse synced with the rhythm of the helicopter responding to wind terrain and unseen threats. A sudden gust of wind shifted the rotors violently. Evelyn countered instinctively, banking the helicopter and adjusting altitude, the metal groaning under stress, the instruments warning of strain. But she ignored them, every nerve alive, calculating lift, thrust, and drag minute adjustments, keeping them steady. The SEALs peered down, noting the enemy positions, making their own rapid calculations in sync with her maneuvers every second. A test of trust, instinct, and coordination. The extraction point now in sight, but still danger surrounding them, the enemy patrols closing in from the rear. Evelyn leaned forward, gripping the controls, her eyes scanning the valley below the trees and rocks blurring with speed. She dipped lower, threading the helicopter under an overhang, using the shadow to mask their approach, the rotors whining against the strain, the metal flexing under the tension. But she pressed on, trusting skill and instinct over fear. The SEALs moved in perfect coordination behind her, every motion calculated and deliberate, their lives intertwined with hers through every adjustment and maneuver. Then a flash of movement caught her attention. An enemy drone emerging from the clouds overhead. Evelyn rolled the helicopter, sharply twisting the collective adjusting pitch to avoid detection, the metal straining with every adjustment, the SEALs freezing momentarily.